Hi everyone, this is Brian Hayes and welcome to a discussion on diminished scales for the saxophone. The formula to work out any diminished scale is very simple. It's tone, semitone repeated across the full range of the scale. So if we start on the note A on the saxophone, a tone up from A will be B, a semitone up from B will be C, a tone up from C will be D, a semitone up from D will be D sharp, a tone up from D sharp will be F, a semitone up from F will be F sharp, a tone up from F sharp will be G sharp, and then a semitone up from G sharp brings us back to A up the octave. So I'll just play those notes on the saxophone so you can hear the sound of an A diminished scale. So if you're new to the concept of diminished scales, you'll have to take some time to get your fingers around those notes. I'll just go through the notes again one more time for you. If we start on an A, the notes will be A, B, C, D, D sharp, F, F sharp, G sharp, A. Now I recommend for any new scale that you have to learn that you do like I did when I just spoke those notes out. Break the scale down into sets of 3 or 4 notes. And also on your saxophone, practice the scale. If it's absolutely new to you, bust it into, in this case, those 3-note groups. And there's your A diminished scale. A unique and interesting feature of the diminished scale is that every tone and a half up the scale, the fingering repeats itself. Now what I mean by that is a tone and a half up from A is the note C. If you wanted to play a C diminished scale, it's exactly the same fingerings as the A diminished scale that you've just played, but you'll start and end on a C. The reason being that the tone-semitone formula has found a new starting note. If we started on A, that pattern begins to repeat itself again from the note C. But it's a brand new scale, it's a C diminished scale. So this is one of the great things about understanding music theory, that in the case of the diminished scale, because it repeats itself every tone and a half up the scale, there are actually 4 diminished scales sitting under your fingers for the A diminished scale. So what's a tone and a half up from C? Well, if we called it a sharp, it would be D sharp. So what we're saying is a D sharp diminished scale, or an E flat diminished scale, uses exactly the same fingerings of the A diminished scale, which you've learned at the start of this tutorial. So it would be D sharp, F, F sharp, G sharp, A, B, C, D, D sharp. And what's a tone and a half up from D sharp? Well, D sharp to F is a tone, F to F sharp is a semitone. There's your tone and a half. So again, the notes of an F sharp diminished scale are identical to that of an A diminished scale. We simply start and end on an F sharp. I'll play it down an octave here. Now just so you can hear the difference between a standard major chord and a diminished 7th chord in this case. Diminished 7th is the most common form of the diminished chord that you will hear in music, and it sounds like this. It's a beautiful chord, it's an intriguing chord, wants to move, it wants to lead back to the major chord. So major, diminished 7th. Again, you can just hear those very distinct sounding chords. So this is the sound that you're likely to hear in the background when you're playing your diminished scale. There are 12 possible starting notes for any type of scale that you want to play on the saxophone. Today we've only looked at 4, and they are the 4 diminished scales that share the same fingering as the A diminished scale. So remember, we looked at A, C, D sharp and F sharp. 4 out of 12. I'll do some more tutorials to explore the missing 8 diminished scales, but for today it's a pretty complex subject, so we'll leave this tutorial where it is. I hope you've enjoyed it. I hope you've learnt something new about your saxophone and music theory today. Bye for now.